Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he is the man who killed Seinfeld. In a career that began more than 30 years ago with a badly lip-synced version of the Yellow Rose of Texas for a KTVU record commercial of Mitch Miller's greatest hits. Since then, he's managed to kill 3 series of his own, 4 soap operas. He has guest starred on more than 50 television shows. Not one is still on the air. And during sweeps, that golden week of television ratings, he managed to take not 1, not 2, but 3 shows off the air in 1 week. Ellen, Seinfeld, and Damon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Grim Reaper of television, John Overland.
I love it. All right, there he is.
Wow.
And we got 30 seconds left, John.
That's an introduction.
Welcome to the Bay Area.
Thank you. I feel welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations. Hey, talk about the J. Peterman character. I read that you kind of turned the role down.
I did,
true?
actually. You know, my series had been canceled the day before on ABC, and so Larry David's office called that night while I was out with my manager trying to take the cancellation as personally as I possibly could. Yeah. And they said, we have this guest star next day. And I said, tell them no. I said, I don't want to go guest star. And so I'm licking my wounds right now. So he didn't call him. And he said next morning, just get up and go have some fun over there. And so I did, and I kind of glad I said yes.
Fantastic character.
Yeah, fun time.
Do you think your frame of mind, I mean, you know, you'd lost something, was it kind of a, you know, did you have a different frame of mind? Had you not been so whatever, let's just do it, do you think you would have approached it differently? Oh,
absolutely. Oh, the character?
Yes.
Or, yeah, well, I don't
Your
know.
Audition, the whole...
Well, it wasn't an audition, it was here's the role. And they basically gave me the J. Peterman catalog. They hadn't finished writing the episode. They just gave me the catalog and said, we want them to sound the way the catalog is written, like a, you know, a Hemingway adventure about an Oxford button-down.
Right.
I always wanted to ask you, what was it like on the set of those? You guys looked like you were having so much fun. You can't fake that, right?
You can't fake it. And I'll tell you, it was like you always knew you were in the cathedral when you were on that show because you knew you were part of television history. And I used to say to the people that would be the Peterman assistants or whoever was out there in front of my desk, I said, save everything you're doing, everything, that the scripts, everything. I said, because you'll be watching the show with your grandchildren. And I said, I can't promise you that about any other television show, but this one I can.
Character so successful. Was there any discussion in regards to a spin-off? A J. Peterman spin-off, having your own?
Well, you know, there was a lot of discussion about it, but that was squelched immediately. Jerry was smart in the fact that he knew he wanted to preserve the series intact. And anytime you do a kind of a, you know, a side character, all it does is kind of chip away at the value of the series itself. So he was smart to leave it as a intact like that, yeah.
Do you still talk to any of those guys?
Oh, sure. You know, it's a small world. So, and when I have Chicago on the road, the musical, so very often Jerry will be in a night before I open that week with Chicago. So, yeah, I'll find a little tidbit of something. And sometimes it's flip-flop. He'll follow me on the week that I am leaving, and he's coming in the night before. So I'll leave him a roll of dirty socks or something.
There you go.
There you go. Let's talk about the fact you're in San Francisco to premiere your one-man show.
Tonight, I open the show. It's called A Man with Standards. This is something I've always wanted to do, is have my own show. And it's a show about standards, the songs from the Great American Songbook, but it's also a show about standards, the manners, because as I grew up in that period, I grew up in the shadow of gentlemen, and I grew up listening to these great music, and I find that the music and the manners were really indistinguishable, because it really was our culture back then. It was about style, and it was about swing.
It was Frank Sinatra, not Justin Bieber.
Yeah, exactly right.
And you're fantastic on the piano.
It's I mean, today it's a little bit, we relate to each other differently. Now all you have to do is go friend, and you eventually will meet Kevin Bacon.
Exactly.
You know, it's a different. We relate to each other differently. Back then, it was part of the music and the manners were together. So that's what I'm trying to recreate in the show.
After being on Broadway and on the big screen and television, why the one-man show? What is it about it that drives you?
You know what it is? It's 90 minutes of a floating monologue with music. It's you know, my crazy perceptions on the way that I grew up and the things that affected me and how I kind of put them all together, and then you realize that, you know, you get to one point in life and really you're starting to understand why you began it in the beginning. So it's kind of like a nice circle, as T.S. Eliot said, in the end is my beginning and in the beginning is my end.
John, do you have a favorite standard song, you know, from that era?
You know, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Moon River. I think it's one of the most perfectly written songs, I think, because it doesn't really mean anything if you listen to the lyrics. Right. It's what it means to you. It's kind of a painting. And I think one of the great melodies that he ever wrote.
I imagine that's in your show, then.
It is. It actually was my mother's favorite song. And so she always hummed it to me. And then later on, they added the lyrics to it. They came along afterwards. And I remember once singing it to her over an intercom that they had, my little Radio Shack intercom that was on the 3rd floor of the home or the house where I lived, and it went all the way down to the kitchen. And I remember pressing the button when I was 9 years old and singing that to her down in the kitchen. A cappella.
So
Yeah,
you grew up on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy your time when you come out to the San Francisco Bay Area?
Oh, I love the Bay Area. I've been here so many times. I had Spamalot here. I've been through San Francisco twice now with Chicago. I'm so happy to be premiering probably the show that means the most to me, The Man with Standards, tonight.
And let me also ask you real quick, you're doing something very special for those people affected by the Valley Fire. You're heading up north. Tell me about that.
Actually, you know, we were so affected. So many friends of ours lived in the northern Napa area and the Sonoma area, were affected by the fire up there, the Valley Fire, that we decided with a group of friends, Guy Fieri is going to be my co-host, but we're doing a relief concert for them on the 15th. It's going to be a stack of people like you can't believe. Concert's going to be at the Wells Fargo Center. It's going to start at 2 in the afternoon. It's going to go all the way to midnight, or maybe till breakfast.
Yeah.
It goes until it ends. It's
My
going to
kind
be
of
like
party,
Woodstock recreated, but every penny is going to go. It's called Thanksgiving for Middletown, and creating a fund for them to say, you know, we still all have your backs.
Well, thank you for
that's
doing
great.
that and for debuting A Man with Standards here in San Francisco. If you want to catch John O'Hurley's show, we've put a link to tickets right there at KTVU.com. You can find it in the web link section under KTVU Extra on the homepage. John O'Hurley, thank you.
What
Great to
an
be here.
honor.
It's
Thank
great to
you
be here.
so
Thanks for
much.
inviting me.
Thank you very
Have
much.
fun in the city.
Now, if you can't